Millions of years ago, the Earth was alive, wild, and merciless. Something crawled from the water that would one day become us. But before humanity rose, it had to survive the fire, the fear, and the first night of darkness. This is where everything began. The world was not silent. It breathed, groaned, and hissed with the pulse of a newborn planet. Steam rose from fissures in the cracked ground. The air shimmered with heat and the bitter tang of volcanic ash. Lightning tore across a bruised sky, striking molten lakes that bubbled and spat. From the horizon, mountains crawled upward like giants made of stone. The earth was restless. Every heartbeat of the planet was thunder. Rain began to fall, thick, oily drops that hissed as they touched the searing ground. The land drank greedily, releasing a foul, smoky breath. The smell was raw, ancient, full of iron and rot. Among the chaos, pools of life stirred. Tiny things invisible to the eye, simple, fragile, and yet unstoppable, began to move. Each one was a whisper of destiny, a spark of what would become everything. A single cell divided. Then another, and another, and another. In the silence between the storms, creation had found its rhythm. 1 billion years passed in the blink of the universe's eye. Oceans deepened, skies cleared, continents wandered, and from those restless waters, something crawled. It dragged itself onto the sand, trembling and wet. Its body glistened like living clay. It tasted the air for the first time, harsh, dry, alive with the scent of possibility. The creature shuddered, its lungs learning to breathe. It did not know fear. It did not know fear. It did not know triumph. It simply existed. Above it, the sky flared with orange fire. A meteor streaked across the heavens, screaming as it tore through clouds. It vanished beyond the horizon, leaving a wound of smoke. The creature blinked. Instinct drove it forward, one limb after another, leaving strange prints in the sand. Those prints would not last, but the journey they began never ended. The jungles of time thickened. Ferns the size of towers rose toward the clouds. Insects buzzed like living machinery, their wings glimmering in shards of sunlight. The air was thick, heavy, alive. Every breath was a struggle. Every shadow hid a secret, and in those shadows something stirred. A creature with skin like molten rock and eyes that caught the light of the dying sun. It crouched beside a river, its reflection trembling in the current. It was neither a beast nor God. It was something in between. It raised its head to the sky and howled. The sound was low, mournful, endless. It echoed across the valley, bouncing from cliff to cliff until even the wind fell silent. The creature felt hunger, not for food, but for purpose. Its claws dug into the soft earth. The smell of wet soil filled its nostrils. The river shimmered. Something moved beneath the surface. A ripple spread, slow and deliberate. The creature froze. Its muscles tightened. Its eyes darted from left to right. Then, a flash of silver. The water erupted. A massive shape lunged upward, jaws wide, teeth flashing like shards of crystal. The creature leapt back, roaring. The beast from the water crashed back into the depths, sending a spray of cold mist into the air. The shock of it chilled the creature's skin. It stared into the river again. The water had gone still, but the reflection that stared back was not its own. The face in the river was human, soft eyes, fragile mouth. A shape both familiar and alien. The creature stepped closer, trembling. The image blinked, and then it smiled. A voice whispered from the depths, not words. Just a sound, a hum, low and ancient, vibrating through the ground. The creature's chest burned. Its breath came fast, uneven. It felt something it could not name. The forest around it began to stir. The trees creaked, their roots shifting like muscles beneath the soil. Leaves rustled, though there was no wind. A deep rumble spread through the ground. The river churned, glowing faintly as if lit from below. The reflection of the human face melted into light. The creature stumbled backward. The earth split open behind it, a thin crack that widened with a terrible sound. Steam poured from the wound, hot and foul. The sky darkened. The wind screamed. The ground trembled beneath its feet. From the chasm rose a column of fire, twisting like a serpent of light. The creature fell to its knees, blinded by the brilliance. It covered its face and cried out. The fire took shape. Arms, a face, eyes that burned like stars. The figure looked down upon the trembling creature. Its voice was thunder and whisper, rage and mercy. You will change, it said. You will rise. But every rise comes with a cost. The fire sank back into the earth. The crack sealed itself with a hiss. Silence returned, deep, heavy, absolute. The creature stared at the place where the light had vanished. Its body trembled. Its heart, if it had one, beat with strange rhythm. It looked again into the river. This time, its reflection had changed. The eyes were still wild, but behind them burned a spark of understanding. The first thought, the first fear, the first dream. And in that moment, humankind was born. The jungle fell silent. The wind stilled. Even the river seemed to hold its breath. The creature, now something more, stood tall. It looked toward the mountains where fire still danced. The journey had begun. It did not know that the path ahead would be long and cruel. It did not know of the storms, the hunger, the endless struggle that waited. It only knew it had to move forward, step by step, breath by breath by breath. Into the unknown, the sun slipped behind the black line of mountains. Shadows stretched like claws across the valley. The air grew cold, sharp, and metallic. The creature, now walking upright, stared at the horizon. Smoke curled from distant peaks. The light there pulsed red, like the slow beating of a wounded heart. It felt hunger again, deep and aching. Not the simple need of flesh, but something older, stranger. A hunger for meaning. It reached for a branch from a fallen tree. Its hand, clumsy, strong, wrapped around the wood. The bark tore against its skin, leaving streaks of blood. Pain flashed through its body. It stared at the wound, fascinated. The blood shimmered in the fading light. The scent of iron filled the air. Something nearby stirred. The forest whispered in a voice that was not the wind. Leaves trembled. That was not the wind. A faint growl rolled through the darkness. The creature turned slowly, every muscle tight. Two yellow eyes glowed among the trees. Then another pair, and another. Predators, silent. Watching, the creature's heart hammered in its chest. Its breath came fast, white clouds against the night air. It gripped the branch tighter. A snarl broke the silence. The sound cut through the forest like a blade. The eyes moved, circling, hunting, waiting. The creature backed away, step by step. Twigs cracked underfoot. Every sound felt too loud, too final. A shape leapt from the darkness. Teeth flashed. The creature swung the branch with all its strength, wood struck bone. A cry of pain tore through the night. The predator fell, twisting in the leaves. The others hesitated. For a heartbeat, everything was still. Then the forest exploded with motion. The creature ran. Branches whipped its face. The ground was uneven, wet with moss and shadow. Its lungs burned. Its heart felt like fire. The growls followed close behind. It stumbled into a clearing. Moonlight poured through the canopy, cold and white. The ground dropped away before it. A cliff. It turned. The pack emerged from the trees, eyes blazing. They fanned out, low and silent. The creature's back pressed against the edge. Below, the river roared. Mist rose from the depths like breath from an unseen beast. One predator lunged. The creature swung again, hitting only air. The fire crackled softly, a bridge of light between them. Then slowly, it reached out its hand. The others hesitated. Then one of them, smaller, trembling, stepped forward and touched its arm. The contact was brief, but it changed everything. A spark leapt from skin to skin. Not of fire, but of recognition. A silent understanding. They were the same. Different shapes of the same becoming. The forest around them sighed, ancient and watchful. Sunlight broke through the canopy in golden streams. The mist began to rise, curling upward like spirits set free. Together they sat near the fire. They watched it burn, feeding it with twigs and dry grass. The flame grew steadier, stronger, warmer. The creature looked at its reflection once more in a pool of clear water. The face that stared back was still strange, still rough and wild. But now there were others reflected beside it. Faces filled with the same new light. For the first time, it felt something greater than fear. It felt belonging. It felt the beginning of a story that would never end. Days passed. The group moved together through forest and plains. They learned to speak not with words at first, but with hands, glances, sounds. They hunted. They shared. They protected. The nights were filled with the glow of fire and the hum of voices. Stories began simple and raw, told through gesture and flame. The sky listened. The earth remembered. Seasons changed. Rivers carved new paths. Children were born beneath the open sky. Each generation carried the fire further, from cave to hill, from forest to field, from valley to horizon. The light spread. The creature, the first spark, grew old. Its hair turned gray like the ashes it once guarded. And its eyes dimmed, but the fire still burned in their reflection. It sat one final time before the flame. Around it, the others gathered in silence. The night was cool and filled with stars. It reached out, its hand trembling, and placed a final branch into the fire. The sparks rose, drifting into the dark. For a moment, it seemed as though the stars themselves were answering. The creature smiled. It did not speak. It did not need to. The fire had learned to speak for it. Through warmth, through light, through memory, the dawn came softly. Golden light spilled across the earth. The valley glowed. The creature closed its eyes. The others watched as the first rays of the sun touched its face. The line between firelight and sunlight blurred. When they looked again, it was gone. Only the fire remained, steady, eternal. A child stepped forward and added a twig to the flame. The others followed. The fire grew brighter. Above them, the sky stretched endless and blue. The world had changed. Humankind had begun. The mountains still smoked in the distance. The rivers still sang their ancient song. And the fire, born from a spark in the darkness, burned on. Through storm and stone. Through time and memory. Through every heart that would come after. Life millions of years ago had ended one story, but in its ashes, another began, the story of us.